that are able to get a healthy home-cooked meal on the table every night, I've started to pull it off. And so can you. So honey, listen up, because having dinner ready every night does not require you to get a pricey meal subscription box or hire a personal chef or spend every single weekend in the kitchen. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to batch cook 3 different courses along with 3 different sides to give you a total of 16 meals. And you can cook, heat, and eat these from jars, which really makes a difference on a busy weeknight. I mean, seriously, what could be easier than taking raw ingredients, tossing them into a jar, pressure canning it, and then storing it on your shelf for the next 18 months or longer? And I know freezer cooking is all the rage, but I'll take batch cooking that doesn't require cleaning multiple pans or crock pots any day. And you also don't need disposable bags or other whatnots. Plus, we're only gonna be in the kitchen for 90 minutes from start to finish. So if you're a busy lady like me, working and running around doing all the things, and you haven't started canning meals in a jar, or you already have, you just need some inspiration. Let me start by showing you the 3 courses that we're gonna make and how homemade wins out on price, nutrition, and convenience. And then we'll make everything together. Let's start with the side-by-side comparison, showing you what you settle for at the store versus what you get when you make your own. Let's pour a popular store brand of chicken and vegetable soup into a quart-sized jar to compare it with our homemade version. The store brand to the left seems to have a lot of broth, whereas our homemade is clearly filled from top to bottom with meat and veggies. Well, let's see if that hunch is true. I'll use a colander to strain the broth from both jars to see what we're really working with. Now tell me, which one of these plates has portions that will keep you fuller longer? Exactly, your home canned soup. You're not imagining it either. A piece of diced chicken from a can is nearly 3 times smaller than a home-cut portion. Clever brand marketing claims you're getting chunks of thick meat, even though it's clearly more like a tidbit. Your homemade soup is the real chunkies. The same is true for the diced potatoes and slices of celery. Seeing the ingredients side by side really makes you wonder what you're paying for. The store brand of this soup includes green beans, which are pretty stumpy looking. Fortunately, I can easily add a jar of ones that I've canned from the market that are infused in chicken broth. Speaking of broth, can you tell which one is manufactured versus 100% from scratch? The clear golden hue of homemade doesn't lie against the cloudy pale yellow store brand. Homemade broths contain so many healing nutrients that exceed the quality of commercial brands. When I make this soup for dinner, I simply heat it in a pan, then toss in my own garlic fermented peas and carrots, which is one of the sides that I'll show you how to make. The result is a soup that has portions, flavors, and tastes that are superior to anything I paid several dollars for a few ounces of at the store. Plus, I can put a meal on the table that I'm proud of. Meals in a jar are the perfect in a pinch lunch. Especially when I'm having a late night at the office or I just want to give myself a break from packing lunches. I can completely avoid wasting time and money by ordering takeout because I always have meal options that truly keep me full and satisfied and taste delicious like this chicken curry recipe that I'm about to share. When I'm ready to eat a meal at work, I just take a clean, wide-mouthed jar and then I add a silicone jar jacket to it, which allows you to hold the hot jar safely after you microwave it. I'll portion out the amount that I want to eat and I just keep my workday moving. On the days when I don't even have time to change out of my work clothes because I've got to get dinner on, this is a go-to meal. Just dump things into a pot to warm and then let the smells of onion, chili powder, and turmeric fool your family into thinking you're making a masterpiece. The deep red broth and vegetables makes this a handsome looking soup. I'm going to add some spicy fermented green beans, which have been on my shelf for 2 months but remain perfectly crisp and crunchy. Watch me cut them with a knife. Fermenting your own green beans is a great way to add probiotic goodness to a meal and always have a side that's ready to eat. Sometimes I like to serve the soup over sticky rice, but tonight I toasted a few slices of non-garlic butter bread. Having this soup makes me so excited because it's a specialty soup that you'll pay a premium for at the store, and it can also be hard to find, but it's cheap and easy when it's homemade. You just saw how I threw this meal together in minutes. I didn't have to remember to defrost anything, and minimal assembly was required. I just added some fresh parsley from the garden, and bread or rice is optional. The convenience of having quality, shelf-stable meals right from your own pantry can't be beat. The presentation of this soup speaks for itself. The third side I'll show you how to make is fermented sweet corn relish, which is great as a standalone or topped on nachos or your favorite sandwich. If you enjoy the Southwest flavors of chipotle, chili, cumin, and more, you'll love it alongside a homemade bowl of salsa verde soup. So there you have it. Who knew that using a simple, inexpensive food preservation process that's been around for generations still remains a valuable meal prep solution? Plus the relief that comes with not needing to worry about ingredients spoiling in my fridge or getting freezer burnt means that you're going to save time, money, and stress when it comes to menu planning. If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog becomingaffarmgirl.com. I'm here to help you start canning and fermenting your own ingredients right at home and share ways to use your home canned pantry and meals your family will love. Let's hop to the prep, but we'll meet back here in a couple of minutes so that I can share some recipe tips and resources. This is gonna be the easiest batch cooking you've ever done. The day before I batch cook, I like to arrange a few things in my kitchen that make the process super simple. It's the obvious things like washing my jars in warm soapy water and using fridge baskets to collect all of the ingredients that I need for each meal. My family knows that anything in a fridge basket are ingredients that I need for upcoming meals, so they avoid using them. I'll even wash and prep my vegetables so that all I have to do the following day is dump things in a jar. Since all three of these recipes contain chicken, I also want to chop up the chicken breast that I set aside. You could also absolutely use pre-cooked leg and thigh meat if that's what you have on hand. I also take my canner out and place it on the burner, as well as put out my canning tools basket, which stores my rings, lids, debubbler, jar lifter, and pickling spices. I like to make sure that I review the canning recipe pages that are bookmarked one more time, and then take a moment to read through the recipe along with my personal notes for my canning journal. Lastly, I'll grab a towel and a clean ladle. Excellent, the kitchen is ready to go. I'll see you in the morning. I'm starting by warming my chicken broth, which you'll need in several minutes to add to our jars. Now's also a good time to place your canning rack at the bottom of your canner and add 2 to 3 inches of water and bring things to a simmer. Since all of our recipes are chicken-based, you'll add 2 pounds of boneless chicken cut into 2-inch chunks per 2 1-quart jars or across 4 1-pint jars. What I enjoy most about canning meal prep is that it allows me to pre-portion meals. Recipes easily adapt for pint or quart sizes, and I can always scale up or down to what I need. I can also take advantage of meat sales without worrying about locking up my freezer space because pressure can meals are designed to be shelf stable. With our chicken in our jars, can you believe we're almost halfway done? For the chicken chile verde recipe, you'll add drained and rinsed white beans, sliced green onions, and roasted salsa verde. Additional seasonings that we'll add include salt, which is optional, a dash of pepper, sliced jalapenos, diced garlic, and fresh cilantro. After you finish assembly, set your jars aside. For the chicken curry recipe, you'll layer your base of chicken with finely chopped onions, peeled and diced tomatoes, raisins, and chopped potatoes. Next, you'll add a pinch of salt, top with cilantro and your seasonings, which include curry powder and delicious garam masala. Dial it with tomato paste and set your jars aside. For the chicken and gravy dinner jars, you'll layer your base of chicken with chopped celery, diced onions, and cut up potatoes. The seasonings we'll add include poultry seasoning, ground black pepper, and a splash of dry white wine. Well done, my friend. You've got 16 quarts filled with 3 delicious meals with just a cutting board or 2 and a few utensils in your sink. Not a frenzied mess. After all of your jars are assembled with the ingredients and seasonings, pour over hot chicken broth. Remember to leave 1 inch of headspace, which may mean that you only have room for a few tablespoons of broth. You'll want any canning or fermenting recipe to be delicious, but it also needs to be safe. That's why I only use tested and approved recipes. The meals and sides I've shared are sourced from 2 well-known food preservation books. The pressure canned meals are from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving, which features over 350 jams, pickled and preserved recipes. You'll absolutely love the stunning photography, built-in meal suggestions, and helpful reference charts that cover the full range of water bath, pressure canning, fermenting, and dehydrating recipes. This book beautifully shows how canning has moved into the 21st century. I've also included a blog post in the description box of this video. All right, so I'm gonna be looking down at some of my recipe notes. So let's start off by talking about the chicken chili verde, which if you want it on the milder side, you can substitute Anaheim peppers in lieu of the jalapenos. And there are a number of substitutes that you can use in place of the white beans. And those are navy, Great Northern, or cannellini beans. And if you aren't a cilantro fan, you can either leave it out entirely or switch it out with parsley, Mexican oregano, or basil. I've actually tried all three and they taste fantastic. It just depends on what I have growing out back in the garden. The chicken and gravy dinner is just, sheer perfection. So I really don't have any recommendations for this. I'll add my 2 cents. So other than a pinch of salt and pepper, I would not add any other seasonings to the jar. And that's because as the chicken pressure cooks, it releases so much of that just deep chicken flavor. And so I would really wait to add anything because you really have a good base that complements other herbs or seasoning profiles that you may add to it, but you don't want to overdo it. You can always add things after you cook, which for this particular recipe is what I especially like to do. If you already enjoy the taste of curry, you're gonna love the chicken curry recipe. Now, I remember the first time that I made this recipe and I was a bit skeptical about adding raisins, but don't skip them because they add a delicious, subtle sweetness to this mildly spicy curry. As they cook, they just get plump and tender, but not to the point of breaking. And you can use black, green, red, or golden raisins. You'll also want to grab a copy of my favorite fermentation recipe book, Fermented Vegetables, which I featured a number of times because it's the most comprehensive text you'll find that not only educates you about all aspects of fermentation in very beginner-friendly language, but it also includes creative recipes for over 64 vegetables and herbs that you can turn into krauts, kimchis, brine pickles, chutneys, relishes, and pastes. The layout is stunning and precise. It's designed for us regular home chefs that need creative recipes to win over the reluctant, and it's filled with tips and meal ideas. I love fermenting because it's a quick process and only requires a few inexpensive tools. I highly recommend getting this affordable set, and you only need one and you'll have it for years. Let's talk about the sweet corn relish, which has a Tex-Mex flavor you'll love. But for a different flavor, you can omit the cilantro and chili and sprinkle in a half teaspoon of celery seed. Oh, this part is important. The short fermentation time of this recipe retains the sweetness of the corn, but does not allow for long-term storage beyond 1 month. But it's still worth making because it tastes so great. Now the peas and carrots recipe, that'll last you up to 7 months. The more flavor you pack in, the more you get out, which is why I love adding onion, garlic, ginger, turmeric, and quite honestly, just whatever herbs I have on hand. All right, so next we have fermented green beans, which will keep for up to a year. Now when you're fermenting green beans, you want to stick with the ones that are firm and slim, which are indicators of a young bean. As the green beans mature on the vine, they become tough and will not break down properly in fermentation. As long as your brine ratio is accurate, which is a half a cup of unrefined sea salt to a gallon of unchlorinated water, I would recommend just having some fun trying different herb and spice combinations. Those are all my recipe tips for now, but be sure to check out the accompanying blog post. Now let's get back to our meal prep. Next, remove air bubbles using a debubbler, remembering to leave 1 inch of headspace. Clean the rims of your jars with distilled vinegar or water to remove any spilled residue that may prevent your jars from creating a seal. Then apply new lids fastened with jar bands just until things are fingertip tight. Finally, place your jars into the pressure canner with 2 inches of simmering water. Place the lid on the canner and turn to the lock position. Adjust heat to medium-high, then steam for 10 minutes, then place the counterweight or weighted gauge on the vent, bringing the pressure to 10 pounds for a weighted gauge canner or 11 pounds for a dial gauge canner. All 3 of these recipes receive the same processing time of 90 minutes. When the processing time is finished, turn off the heat and allow the canner to drop back to 0 pressure. After 5 minutes, remove the lid away from your face. Let the jars cool for 10 minutes, then remove them from the canner to sit undisturbed for a minimum of 12 and up to 24 hours. Now let's make the brine for our delicious ferments. You'll need a basic brine, which is a half a cup of unrefined sea salt to 1 gallon of unchlorinated water. For our spicy green beans, remove the ends from fresh ones and assemble in your jars. Sometimes I keep them long, and other times I like to chop them up. Add a few cloves of garlic and, if you have it, fresh hyssop, which is a savory herb that's usually added to meats and soups, but it pairs great with veggies. Sprinkle with chili flakes and pour over your brine, making sure everything is submerged with a weight. Keep your jar in a cool, dark place. It'll be ready in 6 to 10 days. Assembly for fermented peas and carrots is largely the same. You'll use the brine we just made, but this time we're adding ginger and turmeric for a tasty flair. As you can see, meals in jars come together quickly, are nutritious, and just require a few basic guidelines to safely process. Freezer meals aren't your only meal prep option. If you're a fresh corn fan like me, you'll love preserving it by making sweet corn relish. It's a crunchy, tangy relish that has all the southwestern flavors you can handle. If you're using frozen kernels, add 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut brine or pickle juice to the mix. By the way, you can tell if your corn is fresh when the kernels have a milky juice. That's a lot of the residue you see here. To get canning recipes and videos straight to your inbox, click the link below. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.